The free world must stand its ground. With America's help, it will. Yes, we live in the world that is mutually reliant and interconnected. In this world, the aggression on one democratic nation is aggression against all of us. We fully understand that. If anyone had doubts about this, if anyone was hoping to sit it out while Ukrainian and Russian continue killing each other, this ended on July 18th when Russian missile launched by the Russian mercenary shot down civilian Boeing 777 of the Malaysian flight MH17. 298 innocent, peaceful people, many of whom were flying on their vacation in the south, met their ultimate demise on the steppes of Ukraine. Their cold-blooded killing, just like the barbarian treatment on their remains afterward, show that whoever floods Europe with uncontrolled weapons put millions of lives at risk for years, for decades to come. This was an undisputable, brutal act of terror. Unfortunately, it was this tragedy that gave a wake-up call to many in the world about the situation in Ukraine. Long after war's end, the fear and hate linger on. How many more deaths will be caused by the handguns handed out with absolutely no control or accountability in those regions? How many innocent children will step on landmines so massively utilized by the separatists? How many lives will be ruined and soul poisoned by the propaganda machine? The act of pumping the region full of uncontrolled arms represents the policy of the state-funded terrorism, and it needs to stop now. The cynical downing of the Malaysian Boeing relevated one most important thing. We are now at the forefront of the fight against the terrorism. And we need to join our efforts to effectively respond to this challenge. With this said, people throughout the world are asking the same question. Are we on the eve of the new Cold War? Is the possibility of the new, terrible, unimaginable European war there? Is what until recently seemed unthinkable now becoming a reality? Sadly, today, the answer to all of these questions is yes. However, we cannot and must not accept this as an inevitability. As recently as in 2008, the president of Russia ran his election campaign under the slogan, "Freedom is better than non-freedom." And it was in Russia in the year 2008. And I am sure that despite the Crimean annexation and ongoing aggression, millions of Russians still remember that slogan and take it seriously. Please, let's remind them. Let's show them that the freedom is not the luxury, as some try to convince them, but necessity and the precondition for the true success of the nation. And I am convinced that the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia have enough goodwill to give a peace one last chance and prevail against the spirit of hate between our countries. That's why my presidency begins with a peace plan and one-sided ceasefire which will last long 10 days. Again, paying the very high price of the killing Ukrainian soldiers, hitting Ukrainian planes, and hundreds wounded. We keep this ceasefire long 10 days. Unfortunately, this was not accepted by Russian separatists. That's why we are holding our fire now. That's why two armies stand before each other without massively shedding each other's blood. And if the thing work out right, they will not have to. I am in daily contact with the leaders of the world, including the leader of Russia. The dialogue is not easy, believe me. Over these last months, too much goodwill was destroyed. Too much hate was generated, naturally and artificially. Too many people have died. Based on that, I feel that there is growing mutual recognition that the enough is enough, and the bloodshed must stop. The pandemic of hate must be localized and contained. As a president, looking in the eyes of the mothers and wives of the dead soldiers and civilians, believe me, this is my hardest duty. No one can take it lightly. Today, it's my burden and the burden of the President Putin. As he lit a candle in Moscow church to remember those who perished in this war last week, I did the same in Kiev. And from the bottom of the heart, I deeply, profoundly wish that the church candles would be the only thing who burned in Ukraine from now on. Over the last months, Ukrainians have shown that they have a courage to stand up for the most powerful enemy. We will never obey or bend to the aggressor. We are ready to fight, but we are people of peace. And we extend the hand of peace to Russia and to the Russian-inspired separatists. I am ready to do my utmost to avoid the further escalation and casualties, even at this point when the war has already started feeding on itself. Sooner or later, I am absolutely sure, peace will return to the Ukrainian homes. And despite the insanity of this war, I am convinced that the peace can be achieved sooner rather than later. And I am ready to offer the separatists more rights than any part of Ukraine had ever had in the history of nation. And I am ready to discuss anything except one thing: Ukrainian independence, Ukrainian territorial integrity, Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukraine dismemberment. And I am confident, if this war is about the rights and not about the geopolitical ambition, the solution must, and I am sure will be, found. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1991, independence came to Ukraine at a very low cost and peacefully. Yet the more real this independence became, the higher grew its cost. Today, the cost is as high as it gets. While fighting this war, we learned the value of independence and to recognize the true friends. And at no point we ever forget why we need independence. We needed to have a country worthy of the dreams of our anxious. We need to state would give its citizens a life of dignity, fairness, and equal opportunity. To reach this goal, we will have to root out the sins that drain Ukraine's potential for such a long time and make for the 2 decades of independence and times for the lost opportunities. We are painfully aware these sins largely inherited from the era of Soviet Union decade: corruption, bureaucracy, and the self-preserving cynicism of political elites. There is a saying that each people deserves the government it gets. Ukraine II revolution within the single decade show that Ukraine as a people is better, much better, than Ukraine as a government. They show that Ukraine needs and deserves deep and profound modernization in absolutely all spheres, of the kind that brought economic success to Poland. Given the current situation in and around Ukraine, the implementation of the comprehensive reform is not a matter of Ukraine succeeding, but Ukraine surviving. Deeply aware of that, I gave my voters the pledge: I will stick on it. With the Ukraine-EU Association Agreement signed and ratified simultaneously in the Ukrainian and European Parliament, we have a clear path of reform before us. Never in the history, the European Union was there a document that was paid so dearly, at such incredible human cost and sacrifice. And this sacrifice, the memory of the hundreds dead and wounded, will be one more reason, an incentive to hold this unique chance to make Ukraine live up to its potential. Ukraine needs modern governance and non-corrupt public administration. Ukraine needs to delegate more power to the local communities. Ukraine needs to rely more on its strong, vibrant, and dynamic civil society. Ukraine is building a new model of managing its states and economic affairs where merit and hard work are duly rewarded. Ukraine needs know-how, technology, and new startups to become better integrated to the global economy. And for all of that, we need you, America's help. A special fund to support investment of American companies in Ukraine and to help us with the reform of our economy and our justice system.
Well, that is the Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko addressing a joint session of the US Congress during his key visit to Washington, and he's appealing for more support for Ukraine because of the fight with its pro-Russian separatists in the east of the country. He said, please don't let Ukraine stand alone. He's received many standing ovations and huge cheers there in Congress. He mentioned solidarity with Ukraine on several occasions, talked about the annexation of Crimea by Russia as an act of treachery, and said, I urge you not to let Ukraine stand. A threat to Ukraine is a threat to security everywhere, and democracies must support each other in the face of aggression. So Petro Poroshenko there on that key visit to Washington, discussing things with President Obama as well. We'll be covering that in more detail on Global in a few minutes' time here on BBC World News. Do stay with us.